Boop. Happy Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, January 26, 2022. Today's daily Bible readings come to us from Psalm 119, 89 through 96, Jeremiah 36, 27 through 32, and then Luke 4, 38 through 44. I'm going to follow up with Jeremiah today because it follows up on the texts that we looked at Monday and Tuesday. It's part of this same long story. So our story so far, Jeremiah is told by God to take a memo. So he tells Baruch, take a memo. And he proceeds to do everything that God said, which is basically, God says to him, I want you to write down everything that I've ever told you as a prophet from the days of Jeremiah, from the days of Josiah up to now, Jeremiah. And then I want that to be read to the people because they might hear my words and they might change their hearts and they might repent and I can forgive them. So Jeremiah does that. And remember, he gave the job to Baruch because he knew he was not a very popular person with the king. And so Baruch goes and reads it in the hearing of all the people at the temple. Some people hear it and they're like, okay, we're going to take this to the king, but you need to get out of town and go get Jeremiah and go hide somewhere because he's not going to be happy. It's just like, don't tell anybody. Don't tell us where you went. Just go lay low for a while. And so that brings us to where we were yesterday. And Jehoiakim, who was the son, I think I've said that like 12 different ways in the course of this text. But he was the son of Josiah, and Josiah was this great king that God loved because he's the last righteous king of Israel, Judah at this point. And he was the kind of guy that, like, when he came in, he tried to like undo all the bad things that his predecessors had done, right? He, destroyed all the idolatrous shrines and temples that they had built up. He like cleaned the temple out and got rid of all the pagan idols. And then even like in the process of that, they find the book of the law and they read it to him. Remember, we talked about this yesterday. They read it to him and he realized that they hadn't been doing what God asked them to do. So he apologized to God, and God said, hey, you're right. I was not happy with you. He said, but because you repented, I'm going to repent of what I was going to do and things are going to be great. And that's one of the things we talked about the past 2 days. That was God's hope in all of this, that if he could get his word to the people, get his word to the king, and, tell him like, hey, you're doing this. You're supposed to be doing this. And if you don't stop doing that, I'm going to do this. And they might repent and do what they're supposed to do in the first place. But it didn't work out so well because the king, didn't really care. And so remember yesterday we talked about how as the text was being read to him, he would cut it off a piece at a time as they got done reading it and just throw it into his fire pit and just burn it up. Well, so that happens. Baruch gets home. Jeremiah is, there and gets the news. And then God says to Jeremiah, okay, take another memo. Because basically, I want you to write down everything you wrote before, but I want you to add that. And that's where we are today, is this is where we're, this is what I want you to do now. So, basically, God says to the king, so you like playing with fire, do you? God tells Jeremiah, do it all again, and then asks him to add this to it. He says, basically, so you burned the first scroll because you didn't like what it had to say about Babylon and the judgment I was sending against you. You didn't want to hear it. You didn't like it, what it had to say, so you burned up the scroll. And he says, well, you're really not going to like this because, just as you cut up the scroll, just as you cut those columns off, guess what? So you're going to get cut off. You're going to be cut off from the throne of David. You're going to be cut off from the people. The people are going to be cut off from the land. It's just not going to be good. He says, everything that I threatened to do to you before, you're now going to get, and more, because you wouldn't listen. And that is really kind of the point of all this, isn't it? God doesn't threaten just because he likes to punish or just because he gets a kick out of threatening people. God threatens so that he can forgive. He loves to forgive. He wants to forgive you and I and everybody else. But you got to repent first. And that's where the story ends. The people would not repent. The people even flagrantly just rejected what God had to say and his offer. And so they paid the price. Anyway, that's the DBR for today. Get out, enjoy the day, and we'll be back tomorrow. See you later. Boop.